What's up, everybody? I'm Caleb Ochoa, also known as NFL K22, and we are back with Betting the NFL, week one of the NFL season. And as always, here with me, my co host, Derek Wesley, also known as DWeezy. What is going on, man?
Man, we're getting back at things, ready to jump back into the saddle as we got another season right here on the doorstep. We got week one ready to kick off tomorrow night. And I don't know about you, but this is what I've been waiting for. The NFL easily, one of the more challenging sports out there to handicap. And I think that's part of the joy of it is because it's definitely not as easy as some other sports out there. Definitely a lot more unpredictability. We see that season in and season out. We were talking a lot back last year about things that seem to be uncommon, that trends that seem to go against logic a little bit, and being back at the beginning of another season, we got the opportunity to maybe take advantage of some of those trends that might come about before the books can adjust to them.
Yeah, I can't wait to start putting some money down. This is the start of my betting season because I mean it's called betting NFL. I do mainly bet the NFL personally, but before we get into any bets, I got some disclaimers. Just go over real quick. We are not responsible for you losing any money. This is just our opinions and our thoughts of what we are going to put our money. I do put my real money on the line when I make these bets. I'm sure Derek does too. But we are not responsible for your losses. And also, just bet responsible. Responsible. Don't ever bet more than you can afford to lose. And so and as always, if you go with my bets and if you go with Derek's bets, we're not gonna get all upset if you fade us or whatever. Whatever makes you money, that is the goal of the show. If this just helps you to be a better, makes you make better bets with the information that we give, that's all cool with us. That's what we like to see. Um, everybody wants to make money, so we'll say what's up to my dad. What's going on? Football is back. And hell yeah, we are ready to make some bets. So you want to just get right into it?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'll let you start. I'll let you start with the first bet of the season. What is your
All
first
right.
one?
Well, going with my first bet of the new 2025 season, I got to go right to week one and go with over to the Philadelphia Eagles with Saquon Barkley. Now, this is something I was looking at before we heard the this recent news come out with the trade of Micah Parsons. This was a bad rush defense out of the Cowboys that we saw last year. There's
Why,
plenty
why
of
you have to
opportunity
start with this bet? I mean, why
because it's the
you
first game of
start?
the season. You blame the NFL for putting the Cowboys in the first game of the
I
season.
mean,
Then this wouldn't
you
have
could have
happened.
saved it for. You didn't have to just
No,
have
and
this
actually
knife.
blame Jerry Jones because I didn't bet this till after the trade. I might have not
No,
bet
but you
it.
could have soft. You could have put a nice easy bet, and then you could have saved it for last, and I
Oh
wouldn't feel
no,
so
no,
bad.
no, no, no. See, we got Thursday night football. We actually got a good matchup for Thursday night football, which doesn't happen that often. So absolutely got to jump in on the opportunity and strike while the iron is hot. But yes, without the presence of Micah Parsons, I feel like this is a rush defense that could quite possibly take a couple steps backwards from what we saw last year. And being the fact that Saquon Building is coming in the door off a stunning season last year, going right to his rushing prop, bumping the number up a little bit to get a plus number. You could probably find his current rushing prop out there around 96.5 for the game on the over unders. But going with him to get at least 107 yards in this game, I was able to get it at a slight plus number at plus 113. Sticking with the prop markets this year, it worked out well for me last year, and I'll be going right back to these markets all season long. Like I said, I feel this is a good matchup. Yes, we do see defenses tend to have an advantage early in the season, just as offenses, get their feet under them, get the rebuild those connections. Um, but the run game is one thing that you can always rely on. So in this matchup, you know, like the number at 96.5, but still like the number at one, for him to go over 106.5, and that being a plus number in itself, all the more reason for me to jump on it. So Saquon over 106.5 plus 113, looking to kick the season off with a win.
As much as I hate that bet, I can't say it's a bad bet. Yeah, definitely I mean, our defense is not going to be great. I mean, it hasn't been great against the run, even with Parsons. Not that he was even a run stopper. And yeah, we had extreme trouble last season stopping Saquon Barkley, and yeah, it's probably not going to be pretty. Hopefully, I mean, we did make the trade. We did get something back in the trade, which was a defensive tackle, too, specifically, if according to Jerry Jones, to stop the run. So maybe we are better. Um, yeah, I'm alive. Yeah, but yeah. So maybe we are better in the run defense after getting Kenny Clark. Um, so maybe that slows them down. But it's even with the best rush defense in the league, it's still hard for them to stop Saquon Barkley. So yeah, he's probably gonna have a good game on Thursday night. But for my first bet, I have the Buccaneers minus 2.5 going on the road to the Atlanta Falcons. I like the Bucks here because I think they're the more established team with the more experienced quarterback, more established quarterback situation. They've been in the playoffs for 5 straight seasons, and coming into Week 1, there's just less question marks about the Bucks. We know what we're getting from them—a very solid, good team, and I think there's just way more um, question marks with the Atlanta Falcons. With the biggest one being their quarterback and Michael Penix. We only saw him for a short time at the end of the season last year, so we still know what they got there, and that's the biggest reason why I like the Buccaneers because he's still getting used to it. He's still working in. He might keep progressing as a quarterback, but I'm not sure. So with that question mark, I think the Bucks definitely have the advantage at the quarterback. Both defense aren't really great. The Falcons' additions to their defense really came to the draft, and for those having those rookies, it's going to take some time for them to really get going. I don't see that Week 1 really making a difference for the Falcons defense. So that's why I like the Buccaneers offense still has all their weapons at receiver. They even added another weapon with Abuka. So I like them to really go off offensively in this game. Definitely like the over in this game. I think a lot of points are going to be scored. But finally, the Falcons finished horribly last season with a 1-6-1 against a spread record in the last 8 games. And yeah, I just think it'll go back and forth. But with minus 2.5, that's not too big of a spread. So I'll lay the points.
Yeah, I definitely think you got
Yeah, we got
less
Jay.
question behind the Bucks. But to get to the question
Oh,
from
yeah.
J to Six here, I think the issue with trying to target an over when you're talking about the Eagles' passing game is the fact that that run game is so lethal. They can lean on that run game so heavily that you could potentially lose passing downs because you're potentially talking about 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4 versus 3rd and 7. And so, yes, there is the offensive weaponry there to like the idea of going after, a passing over uh, market, whether it be for Hertz or maybe a wide receiver receiving yardage. Um, but the catch 22 there is if Saquon's having a great game, do they throw the ball much? If they're playing from ahead, do they throw the ball much? And so I think these are major things that are going to cut into the possibility of handicapping the game to trend towards some sort of passing over. I do think that we see the Eagles passing game perform well over the course of the season, but from the aspect of maybe trying to target some prop markets or things like that, I think it'll be difficult to tell because of, like I said, just how lethal Saquon can be coming out of the backfield.
Yeah, I think we might do everything we can to stop the run. Um, so maybe that opens up for them to start passing the ball. I do think if we're gonna win, it's gonna be a back and forth, high scoring game, which would allow them to hit that over on the passing yards. So I would say at least I'm hoping that's the way it goes. Obviously, they could just run the ball and just run out the time and don't pass very much at all. But at least if it goes the way I think it's gonna go, then yeah, I would say they're gonna hit the over. But back to the Bucks Falcons.
I think there's less questions around the Bucks coming into this season. Um, yeah, from the offensive standpoint, yes, we saw some potential for Michael Penix coming into the season based off what we saw at the end of last year, but we also know how difficult it can be trying to gauge the quality of said football that can occur at the end of the year when you're talking about some teams that aren't making the playoffs or potentially even have, the playoff seed for themselves locked up. And even if they're rolling out starters, how invested are these starters in going 100% on the field? So I do think there's a bit more questions around the Falcons in this game, and it being such a small spread, you could potentially win on a last second field goal even in a close game. So while I think Atlanta might have some of the better offensive weapons in Bijan Robinson and some of the wide receiver core, I think you got to go with the Bucks just because of the lack of questions surrounding that offense and defense. There was a little bit of turnover, but not much overall.
All right.
All right, now to jump into my next play, I'm going to a fella that finds himself in a new city to kick off this season, and we're going up to Pittsburgh to see if DJ Metcalf can find the end zone. He's got a new quarterback in Aaron Rodgers. From what we've seen, DK seems he was determined to get out of Seattle. You know, seems to feel he can do better elsewhere. I definitely think we're talking about at least a slight improvement at the quarterback position when we're talking Geno Stone versus Aaron Rodgers. Um, you know, might see some slight motivation out of Rodgers in this game, facing his quote unquote former team in the Jets. We all saw it was an ugly separation between the teams, so there could be a heavy dose of motivation there. But it will be interesting to see how DK is integrated into this offense. He's definitely the main wide receiver threat, and I do believe that one, with his body type being as tall and big and physical as he is, in a red zone instance, that's going to play into Rodgers' hands. The fact that he can go up and grab the ball. I like the potential for him to find the end zone in this game. Of course, the beauty of an anytime touchdown for a wide receiver doesn't technically have to be a pass. If they send him on a reverse or something crazy like that, as long as he finds the end zone, where we're talking plus 190 DK Metcalf to have a touchdown in week one.
Yeah, I like that. Seeing that that's pretty much their only weapon left after they traded away George Pickens. So, and they traded for him for a reason, so he can be that big target for Aaron Rodgers. And I think and once Aaron Rodgers locks onto a guy, he'll keep going to him. So definitely
And
get.
see, I think that's another benefit coming into this season. Whether it was the organization or maybe Rodgers himself, but we didn't see that typical Aaron Rodgers trying to bring in his personnel.
Yeah.
And may, down the line, it may not benefit the team or Metcalf, but at least to kick off the beginning of the season, I think we definitely see Metcalf as Aaron's guy. in the offense.
Yeah, question from Jay. He says, "Was A Rod throwing interceptions in the preseason to throw everyone off? Could he and DK be a new sexy tandem?" Um, yeah, I mean, I don't think he was trying to throw anybody off. I think he was just, doing what they do in training camp, just, practicing,
Yeah,
basically.
I think there's more of an argument. Maybe he was taking it less seriously.
Yeah, probably.
Um,
He's
Now
just throwing stuff
he
to
might
see what he can
tell
get away with.
himself, yeah, he might tell himself, oh, I'm out here playing bad, so nobody sees me coming. But I don't know. With all the quote unquote head games that supposedly Aaron Rodgers likes to play, I think there might have been a little too much ayahuasca in the water on this one.
Yeah, but as far as a tandem, yeah, I mean, like I said, when he likes a guy, when he gets a rhythm with a guy, he keeps going to that guy, and gets a lot of targets to that one receiver. That's why he always likes to bring his guys with them. But if he can start up a new relationship with DK Metcalf, at least just for this season, that's my guy that I can rely on. Then yeah, for both betting wise and and even fantasy wise, yeah, that could be a good guy to have. All right, we'll get to my second pick of the week, and that will be the Miami Dolphins plus 1.5 at the Indianapolis Colts. If you're gonna give me 1.5 against any quarterback, I'm definitely gonna take it against Daniel Jones. Um, two is a solid quarterback when healthy, obviously, and it's week one, so he's healthy. And so they did, like I said, I'm looking for the quarterback advantage. They clearly have it. Tua is a much better quarterback than Daniel Jones. He still has his weapons in his offense. Obviously, Tua plays better when it's this time of year, not so much when it's cold. And they're playing in the dome, so I think it really helps out the Miami Dolphins offense. The problems are mostly on defense. A lot of question marks there. But with Daniel Jones on the other side, I don't think it's really going to matter in this game. Um, and I think that they're gonna hand it off to Jonathan Taylor. So if they can just focus on stopping the run, forcing Daniel Jones to pass, it's gonna be a problem for them. That's why I like just get if you're gonna give me a point and a half, I'll take it all day. Yeah. So I just simply think that two in the Dolphins offense is going to outscore the Colts. And Dolphins, 1-5-6 on the road and their openers as an underdog against an AC team, and the Colts have lost 10 of 11 openers. So I definitely like the Dolphins in this one.
Yeah, I mean, if all the dysfunction going on in up in Indianapolis wasn't enough for you to want to fade the Colts coming into
What's
this
up,
season,
Rodney?
what's going on? Got Brodney from the LBHT in
Uh,
chat. But yeah, coming into the season, there is a lot of dysfunction surrounding this team and organization. And while we could see Miami fall apart later in the season, at least in this game, I think they're in a position where I, I think it would be a great shock if they did not win this game. As you said, I do think Indy leans on their run game with Jonathan Taylor. Because Lord knows you do not want to try and lean on that pass game if you're walking Daniel Jones out there. It's just that simple. The New York Giants said we do not have a quarterback, and we're still getting rid of Daniel Jones. So, you know, it's it definitely seems like a bit of hit or miss going on in Indianapolis, and I would definitely have to lean towards uh, the Dolphins walking away with this game from Week One. Now, moving into my next play, going out to going to my man's hometown, right? Going to Vegas, going to the Raiders. Brock Bowers had a great rookie season, and I think we see more of that, especially coming into Week One. Now, anytime touchdown markets were my friend last year, and that is something I'll be going to throughout the entire season. But definitely like Bowers in this position. Coming in at plus 190 to get a touchdown.
for any touch. for
Yeah, yeah,
a plus number for Bowers. That's probably
exactly.
because they don't expect a lot of touchdowns from the Raiders. I would think that's the reason why he's getting a plus number there.
Yeah, but you'd still make the argument that Brock Bowers is quite possibly the number one option in this receiving
Yeah,
threat. Now,
he didn't have a lot of touchdowns, but he had a lot of yards and catches, right? I
yeah.
think that's why.
So, and yes, there definitely some questions surrounding, new coach Pete Carroll coming in, new quarterback. Though we are talking about elevation at the quarterback level compared to the people under center last year with the Raiders trading for Geno Smith in the offseason. Um, so definitely some things I think that will help. They added Ashton Gentry in the run game, which a lot of people like to be the offensive rookie of the year this season, and I think that will, in some ways, help take pressure off that pass game, having a legitimate run threat out there, and that's something the Raiders didn't have last year. So, especially when you get more down in those red zone areas, we could see a possibility that Bowers maybe not necessarily get open more, but be allowed to be targeted more because the opposing defenses actually have to respect the run game.
All right, we'll get into my third pick of the week. I got the Cardinals -6 on the road at the New Orleans Saints. Um, yeah, I mean the Saints are awful team. I mean they are just a god awful team with just the worst quarterback situation in the league. So how can I not go with the Cardinals? It's only -6. It's not huge. I mean it's not like no double digit point spread here. And the Cardinals aren't a terrible team. They're decent. I picked the it's basically for the similar reasons I picked the Dolphins over the Colts. Just who has the quarterback advantage? Kyler Murray's at least decent quarterback, and Spencer Rattler is not. He's a very bad quarterback. So you just got to go off of that. And the Saints. Um, with the new head coach and Kellen Moore, his first game as head coach. It's going to be a lot of new stuff, new system being put in with Spencer Rattler. I don't think he's going to really adjust really well going into week one. This will get pretty ugly. I think it's going to be a blowout for the Cardinals. Starting off fast, the Saints are predicted to be the worst team for a reason. The Cardinals were actually pretty strong against the spread. In the last 11 games, they went 8-3, while the Saints finished just 4-9 against the spread in the last 13 games. I figure those trends will continue this season. I don't really have too much more than that because I think this one's pretty simple. I think the Cardinals are going to roll them.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the Saints are projected to be one of, if not the worst team in the league this season, and not division, not NFC. We're talking about the entire league. And J- I mean, Jay, it's possible. We we saw a lot of disappointment out of MHJ last season. Of course, yet a rookie coming into the
Mm.
league, expectations were high. Didn't live up to those expectations. Now, by no means do I think that translates to him being a bust. But as bad a defense as the Saints are looking to field this season, I think we can see a lot of players have breakout games against the Saints this season. So from a spread standpoint, definitely like the idea of uh, fading the Saints in a game. We saw the Cardinals, you know, they were a thorn in a lot of people's side last year, especially from the spread aspect. We saw them upset a couple people last year. They were able to hang around in games that people didn't think they would be able to. So, to win outright, cover spread, going up against the Saints, definitely like Atlanta coming into this. I mean, not Atlanta, the Cardinals coming into this game, and even like them so much that's where you can find my fifth pick as I'm going to that better quarterback in the matchup that my man Caleb just mentioned, going to Kyler Murray over 35 and a half rush yards in this game. This is type of prop where with when you're talking about a rushing quarterback, you got a bit of an advantage because you get pressure from defense on pass plays and he breaks from the pocket and heads downfield, you're accumulating rush yardage. Designed runs, you're accumulating rush yardage. Uh, and so the opportunities that potentially come about and persist throughout the game, you're talking about a quarterback with the ability to break off a 40, 50-yard run. Um, so for that number to be as low as it is coming into week one, definitely like that. And, you know, I was able to find it at a plus number. Maybe that might, spell my undoing a little bit. The book saying it's a little less likely. Um, but we've seen plenty of Kyler Murray running in the past and bad defense. New head coach for the Saints. So I definitely think there is some potential and possibilities for Kyler Murray to get over this number, the Russian total. And if I like him to win the game, I gotta like Kyler Murray to at least have a positive game. So makes me feel better about a prop like this. And like I said, if he breaks off a 40, 45-yard run, well, all I gotta do is hope he doesn't get sacked too much.
Yeah, I like that bet. Before I get into my final two picks, if you guys can hit the subscribe button, um, and if you haven't already, and hit the like button as well. And if you really want to help us out, you can donate to any of the many links that we have down in the description down below. So yeah, do all that. We very much appreciate it. And we very much appreciate for watching us and joining us here tonight. But now I'll get into my final two bets of the weekend. Also,
Well, and I did have one
okay,
more. I jumped the gun a little bit, but go ahead with your next one.
how many bets you got?
Five. I wasn't paying attention and didn't
Well,
count. I had yeah
was that down to your four? Was
yeah
that
that
on your
was my
four?
fourth.
Yeah, yeah. So I have two left. You have one left.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're on track. My oh yeah, so my fourth bet is the Ferris's New York Giants +6
Wow.
on the road. I know, surprising, right? On the road against the Commanders. For a big reason. I just don't see a lot of blowouts in divisional games. Um, I don't expect that in week one at least. I think the Commanders are a much better team, but I still think it's going to be you know a tough fight for them. Before last season, the Giants were always beating the Commanders. Obviously, it's changed since they got in James Daniels. That's a big factor. But the Giants' defensive line can really get after the quarterback. I mean, they have a ton of pass rushers there. They got Dexter Lawrence, they have Abu Carter, they have Brian Burns, they have Thibodeau. And the Commanders' O line is either average to below average. So they struggle. I mean, they got an upgrade at tackle with Larry Tunsil because they knew how bad their offensive line was. But still, even with that, it's still a pretty bad weakness to their offense. Um, and I think the Giants will be able to take advantage with all their front seven. Um, yeah, so yeah, the Giants offense is if they can take care of the ball, if Russell Wilson can take not turn it over, play smart football, then then I think he can keep pace with the Commanders, who James Daniels will probably be running for his life under that type of pressure. So I think Wilson can keep pace with that, especially within 6 points at least. So I'm picking a lot of road teams here, um, but as we talked about, like you mentioned earlier, a lot of the trends. One of the trends that we was odd is that a lot of the road teams were winning, especially in the beginning of the season. We saw weeks were going by where all the road teams were heavily beating the home teams against the spread, at least. And That's why I think that trend is gonna uh, come up here because I think at the beginning of the season they don't know how to judge the home field advantage yet, and it kind of adjusts later in the season. So I'm gonna go off of that trend's gonna continue. That the road teams are gonna continue to be good against the spread, and that's why I've basically my first four are all road teams. But I like it because I think that trend will continue.
Yeah, I definitely think if the Giants want to stay in this game, they'll have to keep uh, Daniels contained. And, they might be one of the few teams that actually have the defensive line to do so. I mean, like you said, you listed off a number of, I think, maybe Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau hadn't quite lived up to the potential they had coming into the league, but still, excellent pass rushers, but also athletic as hell, fast guys that are going to be able to potentially keep up with Daniels as he starts to break from the pocket. I would, hedge a guess that Daniels is the faster person, but you know, when you have someone of the speed of a Brian Burns or a Thibodeau, it changes the angles and it takes a little bit more than just breakneck speed to get away from those guys. And when you're talking about potentially multiple guys coming from different angles, crashing the pocket, even forcing Daniels outside the pocket, but into bad situations, um, definitely opens up the opportunity for this defensive line to chase him down. Now, if they can't, it might be a long day for the Giants. Um, but yeah, like you said, road team showing a lot more potential last year, especially earlier in the season. And you know, this being week one, we could see defenses hold the game down more.
Yeah, we got a question from Jay. Is there a prop bet for how many moon balls Russell will try to throw to neighbors this season?
I don't think there's a market up out there, but I'd have to on the season or just we. Oh, on the season, man, you probably got to put that number somewhere around
Yeah, I mean
100.
that's his game. He either throws deep or dumps it off.
Yeah, it's either going to the running back or it's either a moon ball.
Yeah, he has no intermediate game at all
Yeah,
left in his game. So yeah,
which is wild because if you have the arm to hit those moon ball passes, you would imagine he's got the arm to at least hit something in mid range. But yeah, I mean, that's definitely one where hopefully neighbors can take advantage of it. That's all I'm saying. Any neighbors, backers out there better hope 7, 8 moon balls a game because
and
he's gonna need 3 or 4 of them.
yeah, and that's what I'm betting on. I think they can take advantage. The secondary for the Washington is not great, especially their safeties. Um, they're pretty bad, so I think they can take advantage of them through the air. Um, the defense is not a great defense. I mean, that was their biggest weakness and problem last year. So that's why I think they can keep pace.
All right. Moving into my last pick, going to I believe it's one of the Sunday night matchup, but going to the Rams as they face off against. I had it right in front of me. Yeah, they're going up against the Texans on. Oh, it's a 4 o'clock game, but there's been a lot of talk, behind Matthew Stafford. Will he play? Is he hurt? Well, fortunately for me, with this prop, the offense for the Los Angeles Rams has revolved kind of around one person. And when that one person wasn't Cooper Cup, for a moment there, it seemed like it might shift to Puka Nakua. But really, we've seen it move to Kyron Williams. And when it comes to this offense, he seems to be the first and second option, whether it's run or pass. Now, I was kind of shocked to see the number on this prop as low as it is, possibly due to some of the quarterback concerns. But even if we don't see Stafford out there for the entire game, I feel completely comfortable playing this receiving prop for Kyron Williams. We got an over 9.5 yards. Now, especially if Matthew Stafford goes down, I would expect a handful of passes coming out of the backfield, whether it being screen passes, check downs. But Talking about this man needing to get 10 yards to cash this bet. Could easily happen on a single screen. Yes, I expect them to run the ball a solid amount and utilize them within the offense throughout the entirety of the game. And, would like to see them going up against, a lesser defense. Houston might not have one of the best defenses in the league, but they're definitely top half of the league. Probably even maybe a top 10 defense when it's all said and done, come the end of the season. But with this number as low as it is, and the potential for Williams to be able to break off, like I said, a screen, a check down pass, even something coming out of the backfield, maybe something like a Texas route where he's going over the middle, could easily cover this number on one pass. And you're gonna give me multiple shots at it because of how just how much he's utilized within the offense. So Kyron Williams, only I think maybe the only minus number I'm playing all week, minus 122, over 9.5 yards.
All right. I got my final pick here, and I got the my only home team, and that is the Denver Broncos -8 against the Tennessee Titans. Broncos, one of the biggest favorites of the week, with that -8 number. I think it's for good reason, though. I think Bo Nix will build off his rookie season, where he played really well, and I think he built off that success. But on the other side, you got Cam Ward, who is a rookie playing in his first game as a professional, and a lot of time that doesn't go very well for young rookie quarterbacks. Going up against a very good Broncos defense, and as you mentioned earlier, the defense usually gets off to a faster start than offenses, and that's where I see the Broncos just picking up where they left off last season. I think they will get some heavy pressure on this rookie and try to fluster him. Sean Payton, they and the Broncos obviously have the coaching advantage. So I think all six of the Broncos' victories last season came by more than 8 points. So that gives me a lot of confidence that they can cover this big spread. Uh, and this is the like I said, it's the only home team I'm taking, and it's because I think the Broncos are going to blow them out. Titans were 0-6 against the spread to finish the season, so that's pretty awful. 2-7 against the spread last 9 games against Denver, and the Broncos were 11-5 against the spread in the last 16 games. So and 5-0 in the last 5 games at home. So Broncos -8. That's the play.
Yeah, I think at least in game one, the Tennessee Titans are going to be struggling to find offense. Um, it seems like a bit of a ragtag offense being thrown together. You got the likes of Calvin Ridley, Tony Pollard. Um, I feel like there's another name in there I'm forgetting,
Yeah.
but you know, we've seen this team come a long way from the days of Derrick Henry and AJ Brown walking out there and being the offensive threats that they were. On the offensive side of the ball, there's not many people you're looking at expecting big things from. You got the typical hype surrounding the number one overall pick being quarterback, supposed to be franchise quarterback. Well, we'll find out, and he's got a pretty good test in week one. And clearly, the books do not respect the Titans coming into this game. It's kind of shocking to see a spread that large in week one. You know, books don't too often go above that 6.5, 7.5 range. So for them to put up at 8.5, or at least for the number to be at 8.5, I should say,
hmm
that's disrespectful. But unfortunately, it might be it might be deserved because we were talking about the Saints being potentially one of the worst teams in the league. Titans probably got a chance to give them a run for their money in that conversation. So, you know, yeah, it's kind of difficult to get behind, 8.5 point spread, especially week one. But when you tell me the other team on the other side of the ball is Tennessee Titans, yeah, I'm gonna be going with that 8.5 point spread, and either Broncos win this one in a blowout or basically a shutout because I don't think Tennessee is gonna be able to stop them, and it could possibly get very ugly on the offensive side of the ball for the Titans.
All right, that is our five best bets of the weekend. Hope that helps you all out. Hopefully, you guys win lots of money and you can get your bets in quickly for that Thursday night game starts, and we are ready for the NFL season. And I'm excited. I'm excited to put some money down. I'm excited to win some money. We will be here every single week throughout the NFL season, all the way up to the Super Bowl. Like I said, giving you our bets and our thoughts. But any last thoughts, DWeezy?
Um, yeah, one thing that did cross my mind, especially with you know, this international game, or well, I guess it would apply to the international game as well. But potentially looking at some of these first half unders. We're talking about offenses starting slow, defenses having a bit more edge. Not to say that it leads to a under on the game total, but you could potentially see some low first halves coming into this, early on in the season, and could potentially be something to target, whether just across the board with the NFL, or we might see a couple specific teams pop out uh, that we can get behind and potentially back some trends early on.
All right, you can tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah, the lovely people. You can find me at Backyard Action Media here on YouTube. They can also, I got articles on the LGR website, Between the Lines, covering a number of different topics within the sports world. The last, most recent one, giving my thoughts and takes on the ESPN purchasing the NFL Network channel and NFL Red Zone, and some of the pitfalls that could exist from such a union like that. Um, they can also reach me at Twitter on at the Yard Bets, and of course, you can find me every week right here with my man Caleb.
And you can find me NFL Caleb 22 on Instagram and Twitter/X, and you can find me on this channel tomorrow, pregame before the game starts. Doing good friends, better rivals with Ferris. And we be talking about obviously the Cowboys Eagles game, and we will also be there right after the game, post game, giving you our analysis and our thoughts of what took place in that game. We will also be here on Friday previewing the Giants Commanders. So tune in for that. And as Ferris will be doing a play by play on Sunday on that Giants Commanders game. So tune in for all that. Lots of content coming out all throughout the NFL season. So we'll be here. We'll be here every single week. So tune in next week and we'll be making y'all some money. So, like I always say, let's get ready to make that money.